Okay, my iPad has 8 a.m. That clock's almost 8. I'll call the meeting of the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District to order. Let's see. Welcome to all of our guests that are in building or virtually. Cassie, could you go through the meeting guidance, please?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you're attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. There are no announcements, but I do know that Commissioner Freeze has to leave at 9:45 for a work obligation. Maybe we can get completed by then. Okay. Any appearances by the public? I don't see any hands in the room, and I don't see anything up online, so we'll move on. We have the consent calendar. We have the meeting minutes of the 31st of July, cash statement capital, review and approval of 3 sewer extension plans, review of bids, award a contract, and increase in total project cost for pump station number 10, force main repairs, that's a biggie, review and proposals and award a contract for dryer and seating modifications, authorization for East Interceptor, and approval of increased transaction amount for digester cleaning. Do we have any questions on any of the items? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve. This is Commissioner Lankela.
Motion by Commissioner Lankela, second by
Commissioner Freeze, I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Freeze. So we have a motion by Commissioner Lankela, second by Commissioner Freeze to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, that will take us to the study session, organizational alignment. Eric, and then we have Baker Tilly. Alice.
All right, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So I'm going to lead this off and then turn it over to Allison to show you the work that she's been doing with the district for the last few months. But first, I'd like the Commission to just take a moment and put this into context, the work that we're doing. So over the last 15 years, the district is turned into more of a full-service agency. Think about things like this. We've added a full departments like human resources, communications, and pollution prevention. We've also added programs and people for safety, our SCADA, our I&I work, the whole 11th edition, reliability-centered maintenance, and even fleet management. So as we've evolved, the district's needs have evolved, not just for us as staff, but externally. With that, we also know we're right on the cusp of the ERP project, soon to be right after that, the enterprise asset management work, MetroGrow, so technology's changing, including today. We're here in a virtual meeting online that we didn't have a few years ago. So as we turn it over to Allison, I just want to put that into your mind as she talks through how we're looking at our current state and the future. So with that, Allison, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. My name is Allison LeMay. I'm a senior manager with Baker Tilly, and I was the lead for the organizational assessment project. There we go. In addition to myself, other project individuals from Baker Tilly included Caitlin Hummerhouse. She might be a familiar name for you. She was on the team that also conducted technology assessment 2 years ago. And then also Paul Woodard. He served as the subject matter expert local to Wisconsin area, long time from Pittsburgh, and very involved with APPA, AWWA, and American. Come a little closer. Thanks. I'll just note that many people in Wisconsin are familiar with Baker Tilly as a tax and audit firm. I am not a CPA, and you do not want me doing your financials at all, or maybe you do, they would be done very poorly. And so instead, I'm with Baker Tilly's Public Sector Advisory team, and so this work, doing organizational design, is my bread and butter, what I do across the country. I've been with Baker Tilly since 2016. And recent clients include Orlando Utility Commission, North Texas Municipal Water District. West Sacramento was the most recent one. They have their own treatment plant, as well as other utilities across the country. I would say that the one that I was very sad that I did not get to do a commission report in person was the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. That one was remote, so unfortunately. So I wouldn't have minded tacking on a vacation for that one. So as we're progressing through here, I want to first acknowledge the big lift and give a big thanks to the district staff, to Bill and Eric and Amy, who served on that steering committee, as well as all the time that the staff gave to the Baker Tilly team as we came out. We went through, we had conversations with everyone. They were very candid. They gave us things that were going well, their challenges, the bottlenecks. And so it was a big lift on everyone's part, and I definitely want to acknowledge the fact of how much work that the district has put into this as well. Overall, just to give you a little bit of background for the project. So the project scope was looking and doing an organizational structure design assessment, and within that, we were looking at positions, staffing levels, and just overall efficiency. As we were looking at that kind of efficiency side of things, we considered position responsibilities, processes, policies, technology. That last bullet point there really, right, so like the end result of this is, and within that final report, is a future state organizational structure that we're recommending. However, I only work with public entities, very aware that you do not have a limitless budget. So we are pretty judicious when we are recommending and when I'm recommending additional FTE. And so as part of that, instead, what we're doing, or I should say in addition, is we're meeting with the staff, we're talking with everyone, understanding what their responsibilities are, what's getting done, what's not getting done as well, and talking through processes. Who are you collaborating with? Are there improvements on the processes that could reduce your workload instead of just adding staff? Are there changes in policies instead that would make the lift a little bit easier, and then you can have more time to do things? Similarly, from a technology standpoint, what's the technology capabilities that you have? What is the plans for the future? Can you use the systems that you have better in order to be more efficient with your work? So as we went through, and I'll talk about the approach here shortly, but we met with all the staff, and as we talked with them, those were the conversations that we were having with individuals to understand, is it something that they can kind of do their work a little bit better or differently and change how the work is getting done, or are there gaps and things that need on readjustments in order to, and additional staff is needed. So end goal for all of this, as we started out, was to identify an organizational structure that best enables the district to improve operations and efficiently provide high-quality services. I will say that overall, talking with and meeting with the district, I think that it was a really exciting time for us to come in because it's very clear that the district is on a trajectory to really wanting to be able to use data to be proactive. And candidly, there's a little bit of a gap there in their ability to do that because it's in an earlier stage. And so that was on the forefront of our mind of, instead of going out into the field and seeing that something needs to be fixed and then fixing it, of being able to give you the resources as you're bringing in that technology, so you have the people that can analyze, use that data, and so you can proactively identify, hey, we actually want to be looking at X, Y, Z, asset, right? So I mentioned that we talked to staff. This is an overview of just the overall approach that we took. We initiated with a project initiation kickoff with the steering committee that included Bill and Eric and Amy. During that kickoff, we established a schedule, reaffirmed kind of what the scope was, what the priorities were, talked through strategic objectives as well, and then issued a data request. And so that we were able to take a look through all of that information. That included job descriptions, your strategic plans, et cetera, long-term planning, and built out a schedule for the project. That phase 2 was our current state. It's assessing and information gathering. A big part of that I've been alluding to is we came on site here. We met with all the different staff across the organization in one-on-one meetings and functional group meetings to have those conversations, talking through what they were doing, what they wanted to do, what they weren't able to get to, and also hearing from them. We have a lot of individuals who have been with the district a long time and have moved around to many different positions. And there's a fair number of them that had kind of slowly, they kept, because they're great, they kept some of their responsibilities as they moved around. And we call those, I like to call those unicorn positions, because that individual is fantastic at getting that work done. If they win the lottery tomorrow, you're never going to hire somebody in to be able to do that work, because they've got the institutional knowledge, they know everything, right? And so part of those conversations was understanding kind of what's the legacy work that they've taken with them, and understanding how can we, move those responsibilities around, create new positions if needed, so that when your employees win the lottery, then you're able to go out to market and hire and get great people in the work too. I will say that the old saying used to be, that I've heard, is if an employee is hit by a bus. We definitely don't want to be wishing that on any employees, and so definitely go on the lottery route, and hoping that all of your employees aren't going in on multiple tickets together. Let's see here. So we were on site, we were meeting with everybody. Also met with leadership. Those conversations with management were a little bit different, right? It was hearing and talking to them about kind of, from a overall team management, what was working well, what wasn't working well, what that collaboration looks like, as well as kind of what that strategic planning, what the budgeting looks like, how they're using that budgeting for planning the long-term asset management, updates, et cetera, and how that flows down to the operational level for their teams. I forgot to say, before we came on site, that we issued a survey to all the employees. We do that, and in that survey, we asked them kind of what their, 5 to 7 core responsibilities are, what was eating up most of the time, just so that we could get an overall theme, get a view of that before going into those meetings and talking with everybody. All of that information, looking through your data, the survey, the interviews, all of that, we pulled together in what we call initial observations, met with that steering committee, and talked with them just to validate what we heard, right? So this is what we were hearing from individuals. Was there anything that we wanted to dig into more? And then from there, it was phase 3 is the development of the future state org structures. We ran through a couple different options. That is a very iterative process. I think the steering committee was maybe a little sick of meeting with me at some point as we were continuing. We would talk through, talk about the responsibilities, how things could move, if the options for doing work differently too, right? And then moving things around, visually being able to see that, and then moving back over. And then we're here, phase 4 is the documented recommendations and reporting here. I will want to note here that overall, we would like to highlight just the really, really strong best practices that we observed here at the district while we were talking with the full team. We got that strategic plan when we were meeting with individuals. We were hearing that it was a living document, right? People referred to it throughout the meetings. Sometimes we'll see it where they put all this work into it and then it just sits as a doorstop. And so that was exciting to see that was really that guiding document. Very much a strong commitment to the mission, genuine sense of commitment from the employees. Overall, just a lot of pride for working here and being the service to the communities that they serve. Very culture of solution-oriented, innovation. A lot of the individuals just open to processes, changes, wanting to reach for that next best thing and continue improving. You're investing with significant technology updates, with the ERP system, right, with the asset management system. We know that that's a big lift. Overall, individuals knowing kind of like what those procurement policies were across the board, quite a bit of the procurement is dispersed throughout. And overall, just a lot of team collaboration. Individuals are saying that they really enjoy working with their coworkers. All right, so let's jump in. Observations. I've kept on the high level here for what that focus was for the different observations. First one was just talking through a little bit of, for our observation of the organizational structure alignment. There's a little bit of misalignment there. I want to note here that, I work with a lot of communities across the country in the past 9 years or so that I've been doing this. And sometimes when we come in, the scope of the work is doing an organizational structure assessment. And then once we get in, we're talking with individuals, we find out that it's really, there's maybe a couple tweaks from the organizational structure side, the staffing side, but really it's a little bit more of a management issue or there's a culture issue there. Coming in, talking with staff, looking at your organizational structure, this is an organizational structure and staffing for the recommendations from the scope, right? Management practices, the culture, it seems really, really strong here. And so for that organizational structure, it was really the idea of kind of moving items around a little bit, creating a truly, and you'll see this as we run through the recommendations, alignment for the operations side of things, alignment for planning and engineering. From a functional gap standpoint, we identified that really needed some individuals dedicated to the collection system oversight, asset management, building that up a little bit more. There's gaps in kind of what the team wanted to do, and we would say kind of like where best practices in the future for utility management is going. Contract management, and as well as just overall just administrative support for the different departments. Human capital management overall was a little. There was a leaning towards being much more strategic on that, and so we wanted to just kind of encourage that for moving in that direction. We know that that position was being looked for in the future. A little bit of a gray area with communications, community engagement. You had two different departments doing that work concurrently and having a little bit of clarity around that. Process and policy side of things, that was really looking a bit more, recently within the district, a little bit more of formal project management processes being put in place, and so really noting that and really noting the need to lean into that. Staffing scheduling what we were hearing took quite a bit of time. There was a mix off of that. Part of that was just because of preferred how individuals like to do it, using other systems and transitioning off of that. And then it was also a little bit from technology, the actual technology capabilities there too, right? Procurement and contract management the responsibility for that was dispersed across the district within the different departments, and wanting to see a little bit more of a centralized control off of that. Sounded like people, as I noted, people knew the rules, but being able to lean into having your engineers and individuals that had that different technical skills and knowledge, being able to use their time a little bit better rather than off of contract management and procurement processes. Work order management, you guys are leaning into that quite a bit and wanting to focus that time a little bit more there. And then overall, we've noted just, the investments that you're taking in for technology and making sure that you have the resources on the back end once everything is implemented to actually be able to use the systems instead of investing this money into these great systems and then not being able to pull the data from it like you want. All right, on to recommendations here. Recommendation one, I'm going to start just if you can think, I'm going to start at the top of the organizational structure, and then we're going to work down across the different departments here as we're talking through, just to give you a little bit of a visualization there. Recommendation one is to make a true executive office with the director of, a director overseeing planning and engineering, a director overseeing operations and maintenance, and then a director of business administration. And then also having that public relations and engagement manager reporting in directly to your executive director. I would say that the key things off of this is that we wanted to create an executive office for you and positions that can really focus in on the strategy for those different functional areas, with an appropriate span of control so that they have enough time, space, bandwidth to sit and think about that, and then pushing down a little bit of some of that day-to-day management operations down to that manager level for them. We heard a lot of, while we were going through meetings, and candidly we hear this when we're working with organizations a lot, of wanting to be able to think more strategically, wanting really to be able to have a little bit more time for planning, but getting sucked into a little bit more of those day-to-day operations. And so by creating clearer lines of kind of what they're responsible for, pushing planning and engineering together from a collaboration standpoint for those two departments, and then aggregating those operations and maintenance together. So it's a little bit of a split from how it was before. And then the Director of Business Administration, we cleaned that up a little bit and really kind of moved the capital planning clearly, that was reporting into that position before. One other note I would just say from that Public Relations and Engagement Department, we have it reporting directly into the Executive Director, just from a access standpoint, really, and being able to make sure that they're included in the meetings, that department knows kind of day-to-day what's going on, to be proactive and preemptive for that communication and that engagement with the communities. On to recommendation 2. We are recommending restructuring the operation and maintenance functions into 5 different departments. And that's going to be led by different department managers. On the back end of this, I'll be sharing a slide that shows the different title changes. A lot of that was equalization across the district to make sure that you're getting kind of a little bit more standardization off of the classification levels that you have. And then it's within the operations and maintenance function is really creating those 5 departments that are listed there: operations reliability, regulatory programs department, collection system department, treatment plant department, and then the maintenance department. I'm going to note on that maintenance side of things, that is a kind of aggregating and moving all of your maintenance workers over into reporting into one manager, so that they're able to get that oversight again and get that management and get that access. Treatment plant side of things, nothing structurally has changed a ton off of that. We did move MetroGrow over there, knowing that and hearing that from a, treatment plant is doing the treatment, MetroGrow is laying everything out there, right? So from a collaboration standpoint, that's who they're interacting the most with. If something's going on or they're doing testing in the field, then that's who they're going back over to the treatment plants. So we wanted to make that a little bit closer there. Automation systems is staying in there as well. That is from a split side. We've got information technology underneath the Director of Administration, and then anything from the plants technology on that tech side staying over here underneath the treatment, right? Collection system department, I noted that was a gap, and so really it's creating a structure there so that you have a manager who is thinking holistically about the collection system. Previously, the structure was so that you really had you had a supervisor there that was really overseeing those field operations, day-to-day work order management, making sure managing those crews, but having the capacity to take the step back and thinking through long-term, what's the plan for the system? How are we going to be doing upgrades, et cetera, throughout the course, and being able to really work with that asset management team to be proactive about things. That was a big gap on that side. You have it over on the treatment plant no more. Didn't have it at all in the collection. Regulatory programs, that was previously our ecosystems department. A little bit of a rename, a little bit of a restructure there, and the addition of the focus off of that was going through and adding in and having some a department that will be able to focus, and again, on the top level of compliance side of things. Everyone is responsible for compliance across the entire district, but it's being able to say, have one individual that's up there to be able to kind of make sure that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And then operations reliability department. This is similar to the department we have. We added a couple more added administrative functions off of this overall for support. So you can see that data analyst in there, so that you have a dedicated position that's going to be able to help you use the technology that you're getting. The idea behind that is that that individual is going to can be the system administrator. They're going to be pulling the reports for you, and then working with the different departments to be communicating that so that they can use those. And then I'll just make a note off of here. Resource associates were spread across the different departments. We were hearing just so that they can provide that administrative support, and so you can really use kind of like the technical expertise of your supervisor. Like an administrative associate, administrative assistant, yeah. All right, so moving over, new division is the planning and engineering division. That's going to report into a director of planning and engineering. And this position, again, moving things over, so we've moved planning and capital planning over, so that the planning department is reporting to the same manager as the engineering department, as those two are going hand in hand together. And then creating a little bit more career progression within the engineering department. There's a really, really broad span of control. I think that individual leading it before had 9 direct reports. And so we're adding an additional position there for that assistant engineering manager to build a little bit of career progression in there and also reduce that span of control here. Moved some position, that maintenance planning engineer specialist position over too, so that you've got kind of all of your engineering function, engineering projects, big and small over. Last big one, and then I'm almost done talking, and you can ask questions. All right, and moving over for recommendation number 4. This is a business administration division. It was cleaning it up a little bit here. So you're going to have now underneath this organizational structure, we're recommending you have a clear department. For information technology, there's human resources in there, and then you have a clear finance department. Budgeting moves over there. HR is not on there because we didn't have moves off of things, so that's not on the list there. It's moving your accounting functions, your budgeting functions underneath finance. Procurement stays there, but we'd be moving over the procurement management from the engineers over into this position. That way they're able to dedicate their time to actually design engineering rather than bidding processes. Information technology, you've got a new manager that's overseeing that department. I think you've heard this before. Your technology is dated on that side, and there's a number of systems that won't be supported in the relatively near future. It's a really big lift, and so we're recommending that you're adding a information technology supervisor to help with both transitioning over, getting the new systems in, being strategic about what you're bringing in and in what order everything is getting updated in. You have the ERP implementation that will be happening, making sure that you're able to both kind of do a implementation so that you can use that system, and then on the back end that you're going to be able to have the capacity to continue to train those employees over a multi-year period, and then also making sure you're getting those system updates over there. I think those are the key items off of IT and finance. So, and then as I alluded to before, there is also, we did a number of different title changes within the organization. Really, the reasoning for that was either because we had moved positions we had moved responsibilities and adjusted that. Candidly, some of their titles just didn't align with anything that they were doing. And so when we got into the meetings, we looked at the job descriptions beforehand, and then we met with them, and we're like, nope, not what you're doing, not what we thought you were doing at all. So again, wanting to make sure that when they are, if they win the lottery, you go to market, adjusting their titles so you can get the right people in the door. And then some of those other title changes were to make sure that there's a little bit more parity across your departments from a classification level and those titles. And I think that and then just adjustments for if the position was moved or if the kind of like the focus for the department had changed. This is in the report as well. It's a summary of key changes here. From a roadmap standpoint, we totally understand that you cannot be implementing all of these at the same time, and we would not recommend that because that's way too big of a lift. And so from a prioritization standpoint, for moving forward, we're recommending within the first 6 months, hiring, essentially the order is hiring at the top for those positions that we are recommending. So your 2 director positions, and then kind of upping, so that you're getting that resource support and then communications and marketing support, upping those individuals to full-time and then hiring a finance manager. So that's going to be your leadership positions. And then everything after that is flowing down. So that hiring, once they're established, then bringing in at your manager level, collection systems manager, so that they've got that oversight, and the engineer, bringing individuals in after there. And then this 12 months plus recommendation is hiring in those individual contributors. They're the individuals mostly who are, for most of them, most of those positions are non-supervisory positions. I will note that these recommendations that are 12-month plus, and the ordering off of this is so that you can get your upper management in, they can see the lay of the land a little bit, and then continue to assess as you're going through. I think, 12 months is close, and it's also very far away for where things are at. And so we wanted to make sure that you're able to get everyone in the door first at that management level, so that you can see where everything falls afterwards, and they can have some influence on those decisions too. This is my last slide, I think, before we talk through and go through questions. This is organizational structure changes. My job after this, I'd love to be back, but my job after this is done. And now you guys get to do all the hard work. And so a lot of times, the change management and governance side of things, throughout the months that we've been working with the steering committee, we've talked through on that left box, the management side, and a lot of those steps have already been implemented. Talking with the staff, sharing kind of what those potential changes might be. Overall, just providing that subject matter expertise for what the district needs are, and then in an ongoing basis, being really transparent about what the needs are, what the status is, communication and updates, right? Making sure that there's a feedback loop across the board. I think that we note kind of an intent of me noting from on the management side and commission side what the kind of roles are, is that as you're going through the implementation, a lot of times what we see with clients is that it turns into a gray area, right? Because everything is moving so much. And so that's the intent of providing this here. Obviously, I've had less time with you as commission since this is the first time meeting you all. But on the right side there, what I noted is those are those here 5 bullet points are the roles that we often see board members, commission members, kind of the ones that they take. Oftentimes, that's just an implicit role, right? Providing strategic guidance, like a priority of being on the commission to provide strategic guidance. Individuals sometimes see it as their primary role of providing stewardship towards long-term success. Other times, we'll see it where they're coming in and feeling that they're really kind of a constituent representative, representing their community, advocating for their community. Operational decision-making of kind of getting in those weeds a little bit more, and then oversight and accountability of kind of being that check, maybe for management of the organization. I will note, and I think a lot of times those 5 roles are not formal, right? And they're just implicit, like coming in and like what your background is. And when we would encourage you to think about kind of like what you're seeing your role as on here, typically when we C, organizational redesigns, and from a success standpoint, those top two, that's where they're separated out. The roles of being really providing that strategic guidance, and then also really thinking holistically across the district for stewardship towards long-term success. Filling in those roles typically helps with going through and making the transition. The bottom three end up being a little bit less strategic, a little less like governance top-heavy, and that last one, oversight and accountability, is actually usually the one where it gets a little, that role is usually a little bit more off of the kind of like trying to find a gotcha, right? As opposed to being part of a partnership. All right, that's what I said. I said, that's my last slide. I'm going to stop talking for a little bit, and then you guys can throw out some questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Oops, any questions? Eric?
So I'd just like to add a little bit of context after Allison went through the whole report there. So just to be clear, what my ask is for the commission is, when you see this, my goal, and you'll see it in the CAR, in the commission action report, is to implement the leadership structure. So what I'm asking the commission to review and support as we introduce the budget for next year is filling that director of O&M position. That's actually a position we've talked about since I vacated that a few years ago. And now you see in the new organizational chart that that is one of the top leaders of the organization. The other part is, the other two positions are manager positions, finance. The commission has talked about finance. We've established a finance committee for the commission. We have a new ERP coming, new reporting asks, all those things. This is the opportunity for us to have our accounting, budgeting, all of that under one ownership, under one director in a division to be able to deliver that. And the third one is the collection system manager position. For some, I would say 2 years ago, that may have come as a surprise that we didn't have an operational person leading the collection system. It's been done in an ad hoc way with multiple staff members in multiple different ways. And as we become more sophisticated with asset management, and you've heard Jen Hurlebus come and talk about that, Todd Giebert, our capital plan, it's very clear that we need to be able to separate the planning functions in the collection system and the operational functions. And we as a district have continually struggled to do that. We do it, and we do it, I think, at the best we can. But in this case, the opportunity is there to have one person in the collection system as the operational manager for that. So that's including things like our utility coordination when our customer communities want to tap into the pipe, or they want to know where the pipe is so that they don't drill into it. You know, these are the things that we can focus on. So with that, I'll turn it back over for questions. But the last note I want to make is, even with the proposal here, I had already talked to the commission about 3 frontline positions for the budget. Now I'm talking about 3 more leadership positions. But the bottom line is we're still at 4.9% as our estimate before we come back in September for service charges.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Commissioner Lankela here. Like the full presentation here. Great job on the recommendations. And I guess one I have is about the couple of supervisors positions that were listed here. Is there any categories that you have used? How many people for under a supervisor?
Can I clarify your question, just make sure I'm understanding it?
Sure.
So are you asking from a comment for kind of like this, what I would say, like span of control, like how many people are reporting into a supervisor and looking at that?
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah, so on the operations side and maintenance side, I would say well, let me back up off that. There is not a one-size-fits-all for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rule of thumb that is used and that we use and it's recommended is to think through as far as kind of the diversity of the responsibilities or like the positions that are underneath a supervisor, right? So if the individuals, for example, on the maintenance side, you've got a number of different crews, that's a higher level of, there's more employees reporting into a supervisor, because they're doing mostly like the same types of work, right, underneath there, as opposed to over on your, like regulatory program side, for example. That's a little bit more diverse. The lab is underneath there, your pollution prevention team is underneath there, and so that's a lower span of control off of it. I would say that, specifically actually, on the maintenance side, we consolidated down those maintenance, the three kind of maintenance areas, because the span of control previously was way too high for that manager. And we heard that from the manager, and also from the staff. They're like, that individual's great. However, they're so busy. And there's being able to open up more opportunities, from a time and a space standpoint for, like an institutional knowledge training and cross-training, and making sure that that's. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm specifically looking for like, a couple of areas where you recommended, FTE as a supervisor, like the information technology or, area where I saw there was only 2 people reporting underneath. So the overall, under manager, there were 7 people, and recommending a supervisor for 2 in between. So I was just looking at, there are better recommendations to have a worker than a supervisor for like, FTE for an IT, FTE for, would have a more return, more coverage there by having an FTE there than the supervisor.
Yeah, so thank you for doing the specific positions, because I can talk in detail for them. Specifically for that information technology supervisor, that team, the programmers and senior program analysts, and then your ERP administrators that would be reporting into them, that's the team that's going to be your core ERP team. And that's going to be a really big lift. And also you needing someone, I would say that you need a supervisor level who's going to be able to see that from, again, a little bit more of a top level than just a doer level. Also within that team, needing individuals who are able to think a little bit more strategically of kind of how everything is integrated into how your different systems are, we would call it like an IT architecture of how everything is feeding into each other, as opposed to the doer side. You do have a external consultant for the help desk side, again, bringing in that like support on the doer side of things. But from the level of work that we think that is needed within the IT department, to be able to kind of like upgrade your systems, I think that you need at that supervisor level. Yeah. Thank you.
Bill Walker, Deputy Executive Director. This is an opportunity for me to make a point, which is, or emphasize one that's already been made, but I think it is so important, I want to shine a light on it. We are certain that we want to get the top leadership structure in place, and we have a great roadmap in this plan. But everything beyond the top leadership structure, we are going to work out over the course of a year or more. And this particular issue that you've raised is one we're already thinking about. As you think about perhaps the possibility of combining operational technology and regular IT, maybe in a couple of years, who knows, we'll need to think through the specifics of what exactly is the right span of control and how do you meet those needs. What I personally appreciate about this plan is there's a flag there that you've got a problem you have to address. Here's a good suggestion for how to address it. Now work on it once you have your leadership structure in place. We've emphasized that point to staff over and over again. It's the principle we're going to be following as we work to implement this. Leadership structure first, work as a whole district to figure things out as we go.
So, just quickly, is there an organizational chart that reflects the first phase of the implementation plan? So, in other words, what's in the report reflects, the recommendations from Baker Tilly, which reflect full implementation of all the recommendations. So all the organizational report, structures reflect that. I'm just asking if, and if not today, if we, when you present, come back with the budget, come back with an organizational chart that reflects the first phase implementation plan. Thanks.
Is it working now? Okay. Yeah, it was blinking and I don't know. Anyway, I agree with Brad. That was a comment I was going to ask too. It'd be helpful for me to see the current organizational chart next to the proposed one too, just to compare the two. So if you could do that for me, I think that would be helpful. And then just a comment that I really appreciate the work that you did. I think does give us, as Bill said, a roadmap to look forward. And I like, Bill, your plan to, the plan that you're thinking of, you and Eric, about putting together kind of the management structure first and then implementing in a strategic way the others. And the other thing that I hear is that we are understaffed in a lot of areas, and we have a lot of opportunities to really pull together, to create more efficiency in the department, and I appreciate that.
Thanks for doing this for us. One question is, I don't know if you took that into account. Do you think we need LTEs for the implementation of the ERP? Because I know every department's going to have a 0.2 or 0.5 pulled away to make the ERP correct or do it the right way. I don't know if that's built in this, or do we need, like the finance needs another, pick up some of the manual jobs for finance, say? Is that in there or anything?
This is Bill Walker again. This is a fantastic question. It's not in this report because we are already underway doing what we refer to as backfilling for key functions, particularly in IT and accounting. We'll be using a staffing firm in the region to help with that. And also, you've already heard us allude to the IT support firm that we are looking to contract with. That is another tool that we're using to take some of the workload off of IT staff so that they can focus on the ERP. But that is sort of by definition temporary while we implement, so it's not really part of this discussion.
Last tough question I throw to you and Eric, are you going to be able to share the top line people by 1-1? I mean, reality is if you don't get those people in place, the whole thing doesn't work. So you need to be aggressive if you want to get going to get hired by the end of the year. Otherwise, the whole plan gets pushed out. Else, the 12-month stuff becomes 18 months. I know I'm pushing, but I'm just trying to. Eric's position's only been open for a long time. And I know you've been waiting for this to try to figure out stuff, but now's the time to road and run.
Yeah, Eric Dundee, I'll respond to that. So I've already shown the district staff what implementation steps look like, and that starts immediately. We are already talking about, and I say we as in myself and some staff, about what are the job duties, what is the alignment and ownership under each one of these directors, because my former position of district principal engineer in this splits into two kind of thing. And there's just some changes. And for me, we heard as a commission from Amy Deming the employee engagement survey. One of the things we want to work on is roles and expectations, what's expected of people at work. I also want to make sure that we open this in a fair and equitable way. So by January 1 to get those directors, it can't happen if I don't make it a goal. And so that's what I want staff and the commission to know that I'm aiming for. I also know I need to get support from the commission to do this, so I can't get too far ahead of things and have something like that happen. So, I'm with you, and I hope we're all together.
Ken?
So Eric, question, Commissioner Clark. The finance manager position that's recommended in this, will that individual have the responsibility to track all financial interaction at the district and produce monthly financials?
It's a great way, for me to say yes. I'll just say bluntly, yes. I mean, our goal with the Finance Committee, with the Commission the last few years, with Bill's help, with past employees' help, is to develop all these things. The ERP is gonna help that. We also know the ERP is gonna take 18 months to implement, so we have to find a way to be able to do these things in the interim. So I'm just gonna say yes.
Good, because the financial reporting piece, I think waiting for the ERP to be presented is long, in my opinion. And I think the district and the management here would benefit, and the commission would benefit from those financials being produced on a monthly basis. So this is not this is an ask by me as a commissioner, but it's also obviously come up repeatedly with our member community.
So there's, Commissioner Freeze, Ken, you jumped right ahead to the financial, subcommittee report. So we met, just this past Monday, and, couple things on that, that we are working on. One, is we are probably going to suggest revisions to the, so what is it called that the commission's supposed to follow? What is that document called? Our guidance, our principles?
Your policy book.
Policies, there we go, thank you.
I
Yes.
encourage everyone to read your policy book. The
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be informal here. The Finance Committee got a lecture from me on Monday about the importance of reading your own policies.
Yeah, so the policy book, one, is really long, and two, very wordy and a little complicated to read, especially with regard to financial policy. And so we are looking at, one, cleaning that up, to make it a little more bullet pointy. So this is what the commission, to Bill's point, what I would call our command and control structure, that is written in the policies is not actually what I think the commission is looking for. So we are exploring that more. Second point, we are also coming up with, a discussion about how we are going to operate until the ERP is in place. So a quarterly report and what that would include, because as you are absolutely correct, people are asking for data and information, but we are not aligned as to what we are asking for and what we are asking to do together. So we are trying to address all of those issues, and also the report or the tabular report that would come with each project, dollar ask when it comes to the commission. So putting it in a simpler, tabular form as opposed to a written paragraph. So, anyway, we are working on all of those things. So, yes.
Okay. So I got a question for you. When you were coming up with your 14.5 or whatever positions over the next couple of years, did you look at constraints the district has? Or is this kind of like your pie in the sky without any constraints? Push list, yeah.
We work with the public sector only, and I think I said at the front end as far as, we understand there are unlimited budgets off of this, right? And from the scope of work for us for this was to identify like what that org structure could be and like where the staffing deficits potentially were from responsibilities and the gaps of what was there. And unfortunately or fortunately, I don't have to implement. We did, I will say, I say that jokingly. However, I also, when, while we were going through and working with the steering committee, it was also very serious considerations as far as kind of like what was needed, what wasn't needed, kind of like where that priorities was. I want to note that what we were really hearing from the staff, what we were really seeing from a culture standpoint within the organization was that there is a very strong desire to be able to like really be proactive, really use that data, really move forward and kind of be that leader within the utility industry. And there's a lot of push and movement there, and you guys are on that direction, right? You're not there yet, though, and the volume of work and I would say kind of individuals are already working extra, right? And I think listening to kind of what that history was and what we've, as I was talking to staff, that the envelope has continued to be pushed for expanding. And in order to really make that leap to that next step and be an industry leader, then additional resources are needed.
Fred, yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, I fully support the, staff, report and recommendation to get the leadership, structure in place, first, and then, consider carefully all the other recommendations and move those forward as it makes sense. But I think the report was very well done. The staff response to the report was equally well done. So good work. Thanks.
Okay. When I was looking through their 14 point whatever positions, it occurred to me that about 7 or 8 of them are managers, supervisors, or directors. And I'm concerned that we're getting too top heavy, and that what does that mean for everybody below that really do a lot of the work. So that's a cautionary aspect to all of this. The other cautionary aspect is, in fact, our rate increases. And so while Eric talked about the one that may have this year, from yesterday, there's also then talk that the future years, mainly because of capital improvement plans, liquid processing and that, they'll go up above 7% again. And we've been living with the past several years 7 to 9% increases. And I will say, having worked in government, it wouldn't be government if people didn't complain that they did not have enough help. Okay? But you make do, and you get along. And, people may have to go out of their comfort zone and do things. Quite frankly, I had to do that a lot, and it was actually very enjoyable sometimes because of you got a variety of work to do. So when you're talking 14 and a half positions and 7 or 8 of them or whatever being at that level, that really starts to concern me. That's why I'm glad to hear that you're saying let's get the manager, what you're 2 or 3 in, and then look at it again. And I don't know that we could have, 4 people every year when on top of the capital improvements, which are, more important than maybe some of the positions. And that makes me wonder if you're hiring that many supervisors, managers, directors, how many people are going to be following below them that do, the basic work. So that's my concern over the whole plan, is that it puts us in a difficult position of the amount of staff. I just don't think it's realistic to add within the 2 to 3 years. They have broken down by within 4 months, and then up to 24 plus months. I don't know what 24 plus means, that 24 to 36 or the 24 to 85, I don't know. But, we need to start looking at efficiencies too and saying what can happen there. And so that's just kind of my 2 cents worth. Concerned about the top heaviness of the organization, what that means for the future, and then I just don't know that we have the capability when our customer communities themselves are limited to their growth mainly by the levy limits that they face, and rightfully or not rightfully, they ask us to try to live to that same standard. We don't have that standard, but they basically say, you know, we can't grow more than the 3% or whatever, and you shouldn't be either. So we've heard that year in and year out for several years now, particularly when our rate increases are 8 and 9%. So that's all I have. Beth?
Just to add to Tom, your comments and what Eric had said earlier, I think for me, clarity on roles and responsibilities of these positions would be really helpful, because if we have clear understanding of the roles and responsibilities of each of these positions, and then as people, you know, propose other new positions, what exactly those roles and responsibilities would be for those positions would be really helpful. So, you know, not only for me to understand, you know, what they would be doing, but also clarity for them in their positions. I think that, you know, and I'm all for increasing efficiency in the organization, however that may look. And I'm not sure how that may look, but I think as you get some of these key positions in place, we'll get a better idea of how that might be and what are the key positions that we would need to fill going forward. So that's my hope in this reorganization structure.
Anyone else? Is there anybody online, Commissioner Loke? I don't know if Commissioner. Oh, okay. I think we're done with the item. If nobody else has any comments, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
That takes us to reports. Executive Director update. Eric?
Yep, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So I have 3 main points to bring up today. This has been a busy week for the district. So let's start with Monday night, early Tuesday morning. We had some rain and we had 2 treatment facility overflows. So we had one very small one that was about 10 gallons that came out of a relief structure. And then a second one that was a little more serious with our contractor doing our flow splitter work. So they did have one of their surge valves come off, and in the rain and the pressure and the extra flow, we were able to get that stopped, but it was about 2,100 gallons, were clearly an estimate because of the rain. But we are going to be reporting. We've reported to the DNR, and we will do our due diligence based on our CMOM reporting, and do a media release on that about 100 gallons made it to the creek. Now, obviously that's the general statement, but we are going to be transparent and say that some portion of that, because of the rain and the movement, made it that far. So that was the early morning of Tuesday. The afternoon of Tuesday, we held the open house with MG&E on the solar array project. I would be biased and say that it went very, very well. We had about a dozen neighborhood people come ask questions. All those questions you expect. Is this going to affect me? How is this going to help? You know, what's the ground cover? All the different things. So to me, that event went very well, and I'd like to thank staff who helped put that on. And then yesterday we had the community budget meeting. So we had about 25 to 30 people. We had people in person and virtually for that. Already within a few hours after that meeting, including at the end of that meeting, we did get a lot of positive feedback. So I would say we're up to about a half dozen or more communities reaching out for more information, want the slides, which Amanda's going to be working on and putting out to them. But overall, the tone for them was thank you for the transparency. That's what I heard. There's other commissioners online and in the room. They could feel free to add what they thought too, but I just wanted to note that for the commission, because that is a new way we as the district are working as staff, trying to bring things up and be more open. So with that, I am done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Committee reports. Ezra?
Nothing new to report since last time for us. We haven't met again since the last time, so Amy's just left, but I'm, could be me running away from her because I owe her a bunch of help on looking over the proposals we've gotten for the, consultant that's gonna help with looking at our whole process for ED performance review. But, otherwise, yeah, that's in motion and we'll be meeting the next month and keep moving it all forward. That's it.
Thanks, Ezra. Greg, anything to add?
Nope, I think I covered it in the discussion about the...
Okay. Good job. Okay, regulatory and legal. Vanessa?
Good morning, Vanessa Wishart, legal counsel for the district. I don't have much to report or to update on the regulatory report other than to say that facility planning rule that DNR is working on is continuing to move forward. There was a meeting, advisory committee meeting yesterday, and then there'll be another one scheduled in September, October, and November, and possibly some additional meetings after that. But that's been a very good process so far in facility planning. And then on Badger Mill Creek, I just wanted to give one update. I mentioned at the last commission meeting that the district had sent to DNR a letter requesting confirmation of condition fulfillment for the water quality plan amendment request. We received confirmation that DNR received our letter. They're reviewing it, may want to set up a meeting with us. So we'll keep you posted on that moving forward. The Badger Mill Creek litigation, nothing new to report there. As I said at the last meeting, that's moving through a statutory briefing period at the Court of Appeals. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that takes us to future meeting schedule. That's in the packet. And I know there are a couple people gone for the meeting. I think it's the first meeting in September, right? But we had asked to make sure nobody else did. So thanks for all of you who did that. Anything else for future meeting schedule? Anybody have any? No. Okay, and then you did get some work from our prior discussion on the org chart for phase one, and then, okay. And then we do not have that closed session. So, any future agenda topics? Other business? And Ken?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Freeze. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries.